mighty Santa Paula Times, the only newspaper in the world that truly gives a damn about Santa Paula. So always keep that in mind. Anyway, please silence your cell phones if you have not already. Wear your mask if you're not eating or drinking. Tonight there's going to be simultaneous Spanish language translation provided by Santa Paula Latino Town Hall, and we thank them for their contribution. And then we have, and the translator I know will translate that message. Thank you to her. And this meeting will be live streamed on the Santa Paula Times Facebook Live, and our Facebook page, if you want to text anybody, is Santa Paula Times 2018. And also it'll be put up on KADY TV by Bob Allen, who takes care of a lot of Santa Paula news. And tonight we have Jeff Barry, who's the lead investigator. He was the lead investigator for the District Attorney's Office investigation into the Santa Clara wastewater explosion. And he's a former DA office investigator in the Major Fraud Division. Jeff retired in 2018 from the DA's office after an 18-year career conducting investigations into fraud, financial crimes, human trafficking, and money laundering. He has a doctorate in management, an MBA in management and organizational leadership, and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He's a former instructor for the California District Attorneys Association. As many remember, the Santa Clara wastewater facility was located on Mission Rock Road, just west of Santa Paula city limits. It exploded on November 18, 2014 at about 3:30 in the morning. Numerous people were injured. Most of the injuries were a result of exposure to toxic chemicals, and including first responders and 2 firefighters from Santa Paula Fire Department who were forced to retire because of respiratory damage. So we'd like to thank you, Jeff, for being here this evening, and would you like to take the microphone?
He's going to want me to talk.
Okay, this is Mr. Ron Damay, who I've met in years past, so come on up, Ron.
Go way back then.
Yeah, way back. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ron Danier. I'm with the law offices of Danier and Smith. I know I'm not the guy you guys came out here to listen to, but I represent Mr. Barry. And the reason I'm here is because Jeff got a letter from a law firm called Kutek and Rock out from Missouri, threatening him with legal action should he speak to you guys tonight. And threatening him with a lawsuit should he talk about his experience investigating the case. I'm going to read from the letter and I'm going to explain some of the responses to the letter. And I've advised Jeff not to speak. And the reason why is simple. Jeff's out here on his own dime. He flew out here from Chicago with his lovely wife. He came here fully intending to speak to everybody here and make a presentation about the truth behind the investigation. And everything that he was going to talk about is publicly out there. It's already out there in the public. It's either been search warrants that have been unsealed. Like if you went down to the county government center, you could look at the search warrants if you wanted to. You got the numbers. You had the time. Reported about in the various papers in town. Everything is out in the public. There were public hearings about this. There was a criminal case. There was a paper about the criminal case. And he came out here fully intending to do that, but he received this letter, and so he had to make a decision. Does he want to be involved in litigation because somebody has a lot of money and can sue him? Now, you can sue anybody you want. You may not win, but you can drive up their costs quite a bit. When you do that, you cause them to spend money that they'd rather not spend on issues he probably doesn't need to spend his money on. He felt obligated to come out here and hire me to speak to you because he knew a lot of people were going to come here, and he wanted to make sure he knew he wasn't blowing this off. He was taking it very seriously. He was more than happy to be here, and he's spending his time here tonight as evidence of that. This was not something he was trying to avoid. This was not something he was hiding from. This was something he was wanting to do. He talked to me. We go back a few years when I was from experience as a law enforcement, and I've advised him that's probably best that he doesn't speak. The letter he got, I'm just reading a little from it, then I'll explain some of it to you, just so you get the tone of it. And as a lawyer, I'll even translate it for you into English. Okay, it says, Mr. Barry, You know, they could have called him Jeff, but they went the formal route. This firm represents C3 Capital Partners 2 LP and C3 Capital Partners 3 LP, the current owners of the Santa Clara Wastewater Company, SCWW. SCWW Senior Secured Creditor. We are recently informed that you have arranged to make a presentation regarding the criminal investigation, in quotes, related to the November 18, 2014 incident at SCWW's former wastewater treatment facility, located at 815 Mission Rock Road. They call that the facility. We cannot help but notice that you scheduled this presentation, also in quotes, to occur shortly before November 8th community meeting to be held by the Resource Management Agency Planning Division to discuss the proposed project and draft environmental document in connection with Renew Environmental LLC's application for a CUP permit to reopen the facility, and that you're using your prior position and presumably information you obtained while acting as an investigator for the Ventura County District Attorney's Office to promote the same. Okay, a couple things there. Okay, so they're saying basically you have timed your presentation out here in Santa Paula with these lovely people to mess up our deal. If that's your man busy. Couldn't be farther from the truth. Jeff was invited to speak at this free community event months ago, long before any scheduled government meeting related to any environmental review or public comment regarding the sale, purchase, or opening of any wastewater facility at 815 Mission Rock Road in Santa Paula. For whatever reason, the powers that be were scared of Jeff talking about the investigation and are, as you'll see, threatening him with legal action should he speak. Mr. Barry did not create, design, or organize this event. He came here at the invitation of the community. He's not being paid to be here. Matter of fact, he's spending his own money to be here. He has no pending book or movie deal that he's promoting. He came here just to be a good citizen and to explain to the people of Santa Paula the investigation behind that wastewater explosion. He did not take or have any evidence related to this or any other case he worked on during his employment at the Ventura County DA's office. This is his personal experience based on public record. He authored dozens of search warrants which have been previously unsealed, are publicly available to anybody in this room who wants to go down to the government center and get them. And it's been widely reported in local media. The letter continues. This letter, by the way, is written by a Mr. Greer S. Lang out of Missouri at this law firm. It says, it's clear that there is no legitimate reason for you to intentionally insert yourself into this process, and your sole reason for doing so is to intentionally interfere with Renew's ability to secure a CUP permit for the facility and its effort to reopen and operate the same. When a lawyer writes that, what he's saying is that, look, you're intentionally interfering in our contract, you're trying to destroy our deal, we're going to sue you, we're going to sue you, we're going to sue you. They don't say it that way, but that's what they're saying. Mr. Greer continues, you should be aware that in doing so, you are also injuring, intentionally or otherwise, those individuals who claim to have been injured as a result of the incident and the aftermath. The very people the District Attorney's Office sought to protect, as the right to restitution is expressly contingent upon Renew's securing the necessary permits to reopen or operate the facility. Well, that's true or not, I don't know, but in everybody else's experience, the truth doesn't seem to hurt many people who are looking for justice. They continue, have you checked with the District Attorney's Office regarding your intended course of action and the information you intend to publicly disclose? I find that interesting because I'm also a former District Attorney's employee. I worked there from 92 to 2002. I have not sought their permission to speak here tonight. You know why? It's called the First Amendment. You don't have to ask people's permission to speak the truth. All right? The only time you could be in trouble is if you lie about things that defame people that cause them money. If you tell the truth, you're fine. That's what the First Amendment's all about. The very people, all of which you obtain, they're saying that all the information he's obtained that he's going to talk about tonight in the course of his work at the DA's office, which you undoubtedly were prohibited from taking with you after your employment was terminated. Well, his employment was not terminated. He retired. That's one. So that was false. He didn't take anything with him. It's not like he took any documents with him from the DA's office, any investigation material, any recordings with him. He didn't do any of that. You're allowed to talk about your experiences and also about publicly available information. Not just Mr. Barry, but anybody in this room. They ask, have you spoken to them, being the DA's office, about the fact that your actions will harm the very people that office is sought to protect? Now, you can tell by the reading of this letter that they're not worried about any other people, but for the people making this very large business transaction. Because the people that are seeking restitution, the people that were hurt by the explosion, are not going to benefit from the sale of this property. Those are different people. They ask you to continue. They say, they make this allegation: you continue to hold yourself out as an investigator for the district attorney's office on your LinkedIn page. That's just a lie. Never has. Not true. I know because I checked it myself. Just a lie. Okay. All this letter is an attempt to intimidate Mr. Barry so he will not speak the truth of the publicly available investigation that he was part of and that he witnessed. That's all it is. And you know, if I was talking to these people, I would say, what are you thinking sending this man this letter? Because if you're trying to stop people from telling the truth about this event, you're not exactly putting a lot of faith in who's ever buying this property, are you? Because how would you feel if you're buying a piece of property, let's say you're buying my house, and I said, you know what, I'd like to tell you a lot about the house, but I just really don't want to say anything else. Just buy it. No, I don't want to say anything. I was told I can't say a word about anything to do with my water system or my roofing. I can't say anything to you, but buy the house anyway. How would you feel? Would you be suspicious? Would you feel comfortable buying my house? I think so. So I don't know who's advising these people, but they've gotten some poor advice in terms of doing it this way. This is the last paragraph. They end this, with a friendly salutation. You need to be extremely careful with regard to what you do, say, and disclose during your proposed presentation. Although you have certain protections while acting on behalf of the DA's office in your official capacity, as a private citizen, those protections are gone. And like everyone else, you are subject to civil liability, including punitive damages. If you make or republish any false or defamatory statements, including the republication of any false testimony given during the grand jury's proceedings about our clients, the facility which they have interested in throughout SCWW, and a senior secured creditors, Renew, or any other person or entity, including the individuals who are defendants in the actions brought by the district attorney's office. Okay, well, the problem with this line, besides being legally inaccurate and threatening to take legal action when the person hasn't done anything, and the only thing he's offering to do is speak to the community and tell them the truth about the investigation and discuss the publicly available information, is that it's saying that if you just even mention this stuff, we're going to sue you, which, yeah, like I said, you could sue anybody for anything, and you could make any false allegation you want about anybody. They would have to defend themselves. And what does it take to defend yourself? It takes hiring a guy like me, which I'm all for, by the way. If you need a lawyer, you should hire me. I'm all for that. But you have to hire a guy like me, pay him a lot of money, and you have to be involved in litigation when there's no upside for you at the end of the day. And then they end it with this sweet farewell. If we learn that you made any false or defamatory statements during your presentation, you are hereby advised that our clients and those harmed by your actions will take all actions necessary and appropriate to protect their interests to the maximum extent permissible under the law. And then they give them this. Make sure you always do this, folks. Govern yourself accordingly. But he signs it sincerely, Mr. Guerrero. So, Jeff obviously shared this letter with me. He shared it with some people in this room. And he made it clear that he will come, he will show up, but he's not going to speak under my advice. Unfortunately, sometimes not everybody gets to hear the truth. And we require sometimes reporters to go out, pull the publicly available documents, and then write about them themselves. Just to be clear, Jeff said nothing illegal. He's taken nothing to the district attorney's office. He's reviewed no sealed documents or talked about any sealed documents in public. He would be entitled, if he so chose, to talk about the search warrants he's authored that are publicly available, and the investigation he's done, and the public record on the case. And he can also express his opinions about how the case was investigated and the harm that, or not harm that was caused by the actions that occurred over at the wastewater plant back in 2014. He could do all of that. He's chosen that it's not worth him spending thousands of dollars defending himself against false allegations to do that here tonight. The reaction that you all should have is up to you. You can be upset. You can talk to Greer S. Lang over at Kutak and Rock and ask them what they're covering up if you wanted to. You'd be entitled to send them that. Down at 2 Pershing Square, 2300 Main Street, Suite 800, Kansas City, Montana. Missouri. And why don't you give him a call and express your displeasure with old Greer S. Lang. His number is 816-960-0090. Make sure you tell him you're calling about this and why they want Jeff Barry to stay quiet and complain to him. And you can even ask him, who told you to do that? Who specifically asked you to do that to keep Jeff quiet? Who decided that it was a good idea to threaten Jeff Barry, a guy who spent his life helping people, investigating people, to keep the public safe and protect his community? Give the guy a call. Give old Greer a call. Tell him Ron Banier sent you. 816-960-0090. If I had his phone number, I'd give it to you. I don't have it. But I give it to you. But you should give him a call. Ask him why. What's going on? All of you should give him a call. Ask him what's happening and who you're protecting and what you're so scared of. And why is the truth so fearful about whatever happened over at Santa Clara? I don't know what happened. I have no idea. But obviously, it must be really scary. Nobody can talk about it. All right. Thank you very much on behalf of Jeff and his wife for coming out. We appreciate it. Really, I can't have him answer any questions. I apologize for that. That's my advice to Jeff. I hope he takes it. And I can tell you on his behalf, he sincerely apologizes that he can't speak. But frankly, it's just not worth it, both to his family and to his financial security to do so. Not because he'd be found liable, but because he'd have to spend a lot of money proving he did nothing wrong. Yes?
What's the name of the man we're calling?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you. His name is Greer S. Lang. The law firm is Kutak, and then Rock, R-O-C-K. His number is 816-960-0090. Yeah. I'm all, whatever they decide to do, they do.
You can win the lawsuit too, Jeff.
There's no lawsuit to win though for money.
We have a couple of microphones that are going around. Mary Ann will bring them to people.
816-960-0090.
Hi.
Mr. Greer?
Greer.
Hi.
Lang, I'm sorry. Greer S. Lang. Greer's the first name.
Ron, hi, this is Brenda Andrade. How are you?
Where's Brenda?
I'm right here.
Oh, hi, Brenda.
With a mask. Anyway, what I'd like to know is, first of all, this attorney seems to be practicing law in California, and I doubt that he is authorized to practice in California. Second of all, if he is, that's a reportable letter to the state bar. To make such threat of litigation is he can be disciplined and possibly disbarred for that. Thirdly, did he state any California legal basis as to why he is threatening this action if Mr. Barry speaks?
One, I didn't run Mr. Lang on the California Bar website, so for all I know, it could be a member of the California Bar, I don't know. Two, I read you the whole letter, so you heard everything that's in the letter. I didn't leave anything out. Okay? Yes?
I have a question.
Here you go, Joan. Hold on to the microphone.
Well, let me stand, okay? I have a question about those warrants. Isn't that confidential information?
Search warrants, before they're served, are sealed and usually confidential. After they're served, typically they're unsealed. Usually once criminal prosecution commences, search warrants unsealed. Speaking as someone who has pulled search warrants many times before, you can go down to the government center right now if you knew where a location was searched and pull those search warrants on it, and they'll be unsealed if the case is over with. These search warrants are unsealed.
Okay, well, if I want to go over there and ask for it, where do I go?
Okay, I don't know where you go now during COVID. I know where you went beforehand. So you would go to, on the first floor is where I used to go before. How do I describe this? Right by the jury room, there's a, if you walk by the jury room on the right-hand side there's a window, and you would ask for the search warrant. You would need the number of the search warrant, you may be able to research that, of the search warrant, and you need the time and date, or the time and date it was served to get it.
Okay, well, I don't know the number of the search warrant, so I wouldn't be able to get access to that.
Right, you could probably figure it out though, because they have a search warrant book. They have a search warrant book there. There's a search warrant book, and all the search warrant numbers and locations searched are in that book. So if I wanted to do it, for example, hypothetically speaking, let's say I wanted to look for a case in 2015, hypothetically, and I knew it was at the Santa Paula Theater on, but I don't know the date or the month. I'd go through the search warrant book, and I would look for the Santa Paula Theater down in 2015, and then I would have the search warrant number, and I would say to the nice lady behind the desk, hey, I'd like to pull that search warrant, can you print it for me? And she says, okay, so he sets a page. And I would say, how much does it cost total? And she would say about $25. I'd give her the $25 and I have myself a search warrant.
That's all I want to know. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Yes. So you got to de-recline before you ask your question. That's bad form, sir. Come on.
Well, my quick question really isn't a question. I'm just thinking about the obscenity of that letter, and why would anybody consider you doing business with a company who would resort to that kind of nonsense?
That's a fair opinion. Gentleman right here with a hand up.
A question about, is there a comparable example that we might have known where let me ask, can you give me an example of a case like this where an investigator who knows the story very well is sued and prevented from, speaking out?
Well, first of all, there's no lawsuit that's filed, to the best of my knowledge. It's just a threatening of a lawsuit.
Okay.
Do I know of a case where somebody said, I don't, but it's a big world, and there's lots of people who are litigious, so I'm sure it's happened before. I speak about my former cases all the time, though, as a prosecutor. And as a defense attorney, I speak about my cases all the time. Yes.
Has anyone from the Ventura County District Attorney reached out to Mr. Barry regarding this presentation?
No.
Why didn't you represent him pro bono and let him speak tonight?
Because I don't work pro bono. I'm pro Ron, not pro bono.
I'm sorry, would you repeat specifically who hired the person who wrote this letter?
Well, it says in the opening paragraph, this firm represents C3 Capital Partners. I would call that 2 LP, and C3 Capital Partners 3 LP. That's what they represent.
And that is not Rhino, or is that connected with Rhino?
These are the people selling to Rhino, is how I understand the letter.
Thank you.
Did you have a question there? I'm just want to wait at me. Hi. Anybody else?
Can we just get the phone number again, please?
Sure.
Slowly this time.
Greer S. Lane, and he is at 816-960-0090.
Thank you.
Sure.
Marianne.
It looks like it's a she. She represents.
And just to clarify again, the people selling to Rhino were the people who were responsible for the accident in 214, is that correct?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. LP. Limited partnership.
Do you know where the wastewater, the Santa Clara Wastewater Company, where was the wastewater being imported from?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know. I can answer a lot of legal questions. I can't answer any factual ones.
Would you share your phone number, please?
My phone number in my office is 805-643-5555.
Well, this situation smelled really bad before. and now this is just added to the stink and the cloud around this, and more reason to oppose this subtle move with a conditional use permit without reevaluating entirely, and should really activate the people here to oppose this and to get the supervisors on board here. It appears that one of the mistakes is that supposedly there aren't any payments to the injured people, or those payments remain pending a new activation of this stinking plant. And why that CCW2, CCW3, or whatever still exists is the question. All of those assets should have been wiped out, and that ownership should belong to those injured by the accident.
Well, you can make all these points on the November 8th community meeting to be held at the Resource Management Agency.
Excuse me, it's the Santa Paula Community Center on November 8th from 6 to 8 p.m.
Well, I was just reading from the letter.
530 West Main Street Community Center. Monday, November 8th.
In the letter, he says November 8th community meeting to be held by the Resource Management Agency Planning Division.
That's correct.
Okay.
At the community center.
He has the microphone.
Hold on. What if this guy in Missouri does not want to answer his phone and any questions from any of us? What if this clown does not want to? What do we do?
Well, I mean, I would address all those complaints on November 8th at the Resource Management Agency.
Okay, well, I mean, what? He should be representing Missouri, not California.
Give him hell when you get him on the phone, sir.
My best.
All right. Yes, sir.
Point of information. Is that loud enough so I don't need a microphone? Greer Lang, I do have her personal information, and I can't find anything that says that she's practicing in California.
I don't know either, but I had no disrespect to Greer by calling her. I did not know.
If you want it, it's available here.
I don't.
Somebody else wants it.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well.
And that automatically, could the firm itself be licensed in California to practice, and that automatically would make their attorneys able to practice in California? I mean, where would they take Jeff to court?
Well, I'm sure they would hire somebody out here and do it out here, or maybe they may think they have a federal beef. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Usually, if you can hire one law firm, you can hire two, especially when you're titled C3 Capital Partners 2 and 3.
Was the letter copied to anyone?
No, not that. Oh, except for Leonard B. Rose, Esquire. So I don't know where Leonard B. is. He was CC'd on it.
Can we get a copy of that letter if we want it?
I'm not at liberty to give that letter out, but somebody else may.
What was the date again on the letter?
October 28th of this year. Trick or treat. Anybody else before we call it a night here? I got kids to pick up. Anybody else?
Can we see the brief? Is there a brief that we can at least see? He doesn't have to talk, but can we
A brief? I don't know what you mean by a brief.
presentation?
No. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you. I apologize on behalf of Mr. Barry. He really didn't want to make this presentation tonight. Have a good night.